So with the release of Summit, the shock trap has gained a lot of popularity, just because it's a lot easier to stun lock waves of enemies coming through doors and stuff like that. Now, the biggest problem with the shock trap is mostly just its pattern. So in this video, I want to look at an easy way to help you get a more beneficial pattern to basically suit your needs, suit your, environment, or at least, the situation that you're dealing with currently. Now, when you throw the shock trap, generally people don't really care about how they throw it. A lot of the times they just toss it into a room, whatever, don't really give any, attention to how it's actually going to work. But the way that you throw it does actually have a noticeable impact on the pattern that is created. Just like this example, if you throw it just straight on the ground, basically, landing the shock trap on the ground, you are going to get a disc-based pattern. So this is going to be, kind of similar to like a donut or a CD. Now, when you throw it at head height or a little bit lower, a little bit higher, you're going to get a more focused zone of shock traps. So you're going to get a higher increase or a higher density in the middle, and you're going to get a slightly less dense field on the outside of that circle. Now, if you were to throw it completely overhead, just probably, above most ceiling heights that you can get into inside of buildings, you are going to get a very even distribution. Now, this is depending on how high you throw it, depending on, the exact height, you may still get a little bit more focus in the center or a little bit more focus on the outside. But generally it's going to be very pizza-like. You're going to get a lot of toppings spread throughout the entire area. And this is probably the most effective way if you actually want to get effect out of each individual shock trap. Now, as you just saw, if you throw it, anywhere from the knees down, meaning anywhere on the ground contact, you're going to get that disc-based pattern. Now, if you throw it anywhere from above the knees to slightly above the head, you're going to get more of a statistical probability type, dispersal of the actual shock traps. And then, of course, when you throw it way above the head, you're going to get a more even distribution of the actual shock traps and be less likely to destroy other shock traps when they're actually triggered. Now, for a better viewpoint of the actual effect, you can see here, throwing it from a really high distance, you get a much broader distribution of these traps. So if you need, a larger area covered, throwing it higher up is definitely the way to go. And again, you can see here, throwing it about head height, you do get that more focused area, directly around the immediate, toss of the actual shock trap. But you do still get some outer circle traps that are actually, beneficial and basically allowing you to slow down a single enemy advancing so that you're not just destroying all your traps at once. And then you can see here that when you throw it on the ground or even slightly above the ground, you're going to get that disc-based pattern, meaning that there's not going to be any traps really in the middle and everything's going to kind of cluster up on the outside of the area. Now, because of this, I would definitely say that having this disc-based pattern, throwing it on the ground, is generally not great for enclosed areas. So if you're dealing with like the office building settings of Summit, having these traps basically get lodged on the desks or whatever, having like 5 or 6 of them all get bunched up in one area, it's not really beneficial for using the shock trap. Now, real quickly, if you look at the shock trap, if you have it maxed out, your radius is going to be about 4.2 meters. An easy way to actually compare this to see how effective it's going to be is to basically just take out the chem launcher. Now you can see here my chem launcher's got 3.9, so a little bit shorter. But you can see here, if you compare it to the radius of the shock traps, you're going to see that a lot of these traps are going to destroy other traps. So what we can take from this is that the pattern itself might be detrimental to what you're trying to do. If you end up wasting 5 or 6 shock traps on a single enemy because they detonated everything around them, then maybe that's not very useful for you. Now, one last thing here, with the quick trigger release, basically just tapping the button for instant use, more or less, you're going to get something in between the standard distribution and the pizza. So it's going to be a little bit focused on the center, but it is also going to have a wider distribution. So that has a potential use for a lot of players in, let's say, like the dark zone. So if you're trying to run away, you can quickly toss that out and get a very good coverage of a large area, meaning that anyone who's following you might not be able to just make it through easily. But either way, thank you guys for watching. I hope this helped you out a little bit. I'll see you in the next one.